So now we've seen how we can get data from Unity, captured through AWS, and then presented back into Spark. So Nick, we've got two ways we can go from here. We can now spend a bit more time in Spark learning more about it, but then we're going to have to go back into Unity to set up a bunch of tracking events, and then we can bring all that extra data back into Spark. Or we could go into Unity now, set up those tracking events, and then come back into Spark, and Spark will already have all the data that it needs, and then we can just spend all of our attention focusing on how to use Spark to deal with that data. Which way do you want to go?
Let's go Unity first, and we can focus on Spark later.
Cool. All right. So let's go back into Unity, and let's add in some more tracking events that we want to capture. So I'm going to bring up a notepad for a second, and it's already pre-written, which is very nice and handy of it. Let's talk about what events we're going to capture for this. So we already know that we've got application launch or application start. We've got application focus, which is when we alt-tab away from the game, or on an iPhone switch to a different app and then come back.
Yep.
Let's look at what else we want to put in here. So we want to know how many times players start our levels.
Okay.
So if, let's say, you're on level 1, then you're on level 2, then you're on level 3, but then that person never made it to 4, 5, or 6. You'd want to be able to see which level players are getting up to.
Yes.
So to do that, we would want to capture when players start a level. So we'll call it level start. When we do start a level, what things do we want to capture about that? So all of our events are already going to have level name and level version.
Okay.
So we don't need to put these anywhere because we can assume that these two are on every event. But this is how we'd be able to see how many times someone has started level 1, how many times someone has made it to level 2.
Yeah.
Or, oh my goodness, people aren't getting past level 2 because there's a bug with version 1. So now we update the app, and then we can see, hey, everyone's now getting past level 2 because it's now on version 2.
Right. Okay.
So what else would we want to capture about this? I think that we would want to capture how many times someone has tried to start this level.
Okay. Yeah,
So that would be like, I have tried, this is now my 5th attempt at trying to get past level 2.
Yes. Okay.
So we want to have level attempt.
That makes sense.
Alright, that should be all we'll need for level start. Different events that we'll want to capture would be... What else? We want to know how players are getting through the level. So if we switch back to Unity here, we'd want to know how players are progressing around the level. So if we are on the game, there's 3 different ways that I can think to do this when the game starts. It's where are players clicking the most? So which way are players getting around this particular wall? They're going around to the right because they're clicking around to the right? Or are some of them deciding to come back this way and play tag chases with this guy? Oh, I got spotted because we didn't set up through the wall tracking. Or we could look at, let's send a tracking event every 1 second or 2 seconds or some period of time to see where the player was over the course of the level at any given time. So if they stand still for a long time, we'll just be able to see players are sitting in this position doing nothing for a while. And the other one is we can try and track it by distance space. So every time they move, we can say every time they have moved, let's say 5 units, we'll send off a tracking event saying this is where the player was after moving the next 5 units.
So will we just send that as like a point or like a vector or what?
We'll send that one as a point.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's quickly list these guys out for a second. We'll call it player path. Click based. This one's going to need position clicked. Just more on this one. Why would we... This will show us something, but look what I can do here. I can click down here.
Right.
And then I might not want to go all that way. So I might click over here just to get him moving that far, and then really go, oh no, this is as far as I wanted to go.
Right.
So the clicks might not tell us exactly where the player was intending their character to go. So I might want to go up here and, oh, quick, hide behind the wall. But really what I did there is I went way further up to click just to make him start going vertical.
So
and then
we only want to send the event once they finish a movement.
So that's another way we could do. Let's list that. Well, no, let's not list them now. But let's say I did this. The player has never actually finished moving right now.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways that there's a few different ways that we can track how players are interacting with the game. So we're going to do these three. The position player path click based, and we'll track when someone clicks where it was that they clicked. Then we'll have player path, and I'll just copy paste this guy a few more times. Time based, and if we're doing time based, we want to know player position. And seeing as we're tracking time, we might want to be able to put in a delta of how much time has passed since the last time we tracked.
Okay.
Delta time passed. Now, this one's going to be equal to whatever threshold we set.
Right.
So we might not need to set this track this one, but we'll keep it anyway. And then we'll say the next one we want to track would be accumulative time. So that's going to be able to say where was the player and how far into the level were they when they were in that position.
Okay.
So it might take players 10 seconds to get over here, but it might take others 30 seconds. So we can see the difference in how far or how long they've been in the game for.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. And then the last one is player path distance based.
Distance based. Okay.
Which will take in the same thing. Whoops. We'll have the player position at the time they have gone past the threshold of however many units it is. We can have delta, distance moved, and then the accumulative distance. Yes, that is spelled correctly.
Yeah.
Alright, so these are the events that we're going to go for. There is another way that you could track players through your level, which is you could set up more of these type of things, invisible blocks, and say, well, let's see which way the players go. Did they go to the left or did they go to the right? And then as they hit that, say the player has hit this box.
Yeah.
And then you could set up a series of checkpoints that the player could go through, like a racing game. There'd be no need to track where players were clicking in a racing game.
You could like follow them through the blocks.
Yeah, you could and then you could say, well, they were at this block and that block, and it took them 20 seconds to do that. So we already know that that's this far up the track. Distance divided by time would give us their speed.
Okay.
So there's other ways that we could do this, but for our particular game and the top-down view, these three are going to cover us pretty nicely. All right. So with that, we will stop this video here, and in the next video, we will set up the level start event.
All right, cool.